Buckle up, space enthusiasts. Prepare to have your mind blown as we unveil the dark and mind-boggling secrets lurking beyond our atmosphere. Get ready for an eye-opening journey through the cosmos as we present to you 10 sickening facts about space travel that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about our universe. From spine-chilling radiation dangers to mind-altering time dilation, this video is not for the faint of heart. Brace yourself for an adventure that will shatter your perception of space and redefine the meaning of out of this world. Are you ready to explore the unsettling truths of space travel? Then hit that play button and get ready to be astounded. The idea of traveling into space seems cool. Many of us have imagined becoming astronauts or possibly the first person on Mars at some point in our lives. Who hasn't wanted to touch the stars? However, some facts might have made us reconsider if our dreams hadn't died off anyway. From the unfortunate consequences of venturing into a decidedly human-unfriendly environment to the inability of Earth-made products to properly adjust to space, there are many attributes of space travel that you may not have anticipated. Here are 10 sickening facts about space travel. 1. NASA doesn't know what to do with astronauts who die in space. NASA has no concrete plans regarding what to do with the bodies of astronauts who die in space. NASA doesn't even expect astronauts to die in space, so it doesn't train them on what to do in the event of the death of a colleague. But what would happen if an astronaut died in space? The possibility of this is higher than ever as NASA plans for long-term missions like a trip to Mars. One option is to release the body into space. However, this isn't an option since the United Nations prohibits the dumping of litter, which includes bodies, in space over fears that they might collide with spaceships or contaminate other planets. Another option is to store the body inside the spaceship and bury it upon returning to Earth. Again, this is not an option since it would put the lives of other astronauts at risk. A last option, if a man ever gets to colonize Mars, is to use the body as fertilizer. However, it remains in doubt whether humans make good fertilizer. 2. Astronauts drink recycled urine. Access to fresh water can be a problem in space. American astronauts at the International Space Station, ISS, get most of their water by recycling and recovering it using the water recovery system, which NASA introduced in 2009. Just as the name implies, the water recovery system allows astronauts to recover most of the water they lose through sweat and urine or while brushing or making coffee. American astronauts aren't just recycling their urine. They're also recycling the urine of cosmonauts since the Russians have refused to recycle their pee. According to Lane Carter, NASA's water subsystem manager for the ISS, recycled water tastes just like bottled water. 3. Astronauts lose muscle and bone mass and suffer from premature aging. The microgravity environment of space causes premature aging in astronauts. Their skin ages faster, becomes drier and thinner, and is prone to itching. As if that isn't enough, their bones and muscles become weaker. Astronauts lose 1% of their muscle mass and as much as 2% of their bone mass with every month that they spend in space. A 4 to a 6-month trip to the International Space Station would lead to the loss of about 11% of the mass of the hip bone. Even astronauts' arteries aren't spared. They become stiffer, as would be expected in people 20 or 30 years older. 4. Space travel might be making astronauts infertile. There are speculations that long-term space missions are making astronauts infertile. In one experiment, male rats suspended above the floor during a 6-week-long experiment, mimicking the weightlessness of outer space, suffered shrunken tests and severely low sperm count, which made them as good as being infertile. Female rats suffered a similar or even worse fate when they were sent into space. Their ovaries ceased working after just 15 days. By the time they returned to Earth, the gene responsible for producing estrogen, the female hormone, had become redundant, while the cells that produced eggs were dying. 5. Most astronauts get space sick. Despite advancements in space technology, space sickness remains one of NASA's biggest headaches. 5. More than half of all astronauts sent into space experience nausea, headache, vomiting, and general discomfort, which are all symptoms of space sickness, also called space adaptation syndrome. One notable astronaut who experienced space sickness is ex-Senator Jake Garn, who started showing symptoms even before leaving Earth. By the time he returned, he couldn't even walk properly. Garn's bout of space sickness was so terrible that his name became an informal measurement of the illness. Astronauts can rate their symptoms with phrases like 1 Garn, 2 garns, 3 garns, and so on. While NASA has yet to find a solution for space sickness, it has created an early warning device that lets astronauts know that they're about to get space sick. 6. All astronauts wear diapers. NASA had oversight in designing the first spacesuit. Its scientists forgot that astronauts might need to pee while in their suits. This oversight caused astronaut Alan Shepard, the first American in space, to pee right inside his spacesuit. This only happened after a series of deliberations because NASA scientists feared that the urine might short-circuit the electrical components of the suit. 7. It might be a good idea to masturbate in space. Astronauts are always at risk of contracting genitourinary illnesses while in space. Males are likely to go down with prostatitis, while females are at risk of urinary tract infections. Between 1981 and 1998, 23 of the 508 astronauts NASA sent into space suffered from genitourinary problems. While this statistic proves that genitourinary illnesses only affect a small percentage of astronauts, they aren't minor issues and could lead to the termination of space missions. The Soviet Union found this out the hard way in 1985 when cosmonaut Vladimir Vasyutin was forced to return to Earth after spending only 2 months out of a planned 6-month stay at the Salyut 7 space station. 8. Emergency medical services are non-existent in space. NASA has no sophisticated medical equipment on board its spacecraft or even the ISS. All it has are drugs and basic equipment that qualify as first aid. This means astronauts cannot be treated for anything other than basic ailments. So what happens when an astronaut becomes severely sick or even requires surgery? When such happens, NASA demands that the astronaut is sent back to Earth. NASA has an agreement with the Russian space agency, Roscosmos, to launch emergency Soyuz rockets to recover sick astronauts from the ISS. Besides the sick astronaut, the rocket would return with 2 extra astronauts, since it requires a 3-man crew. Such a trip would cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and a severely ill astronaut might not even survive the journey. 9. Drugs are less effective in space. Even at that, most of the drugs available aren't as effective as they would be if they were administered here on Earth. During one study, researchers assembled 8 first aid kits with 35 different drugs, including sleeping aids and antibiotics. 4 of the kits were sent to the International Space Station, while the remaining 4 were kept in a special chamber at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. After 28 months, the drugs sent to the ISS were found to be less effective than those kept at the Space Center. 10. Carbon dioxide poisoning is a problem. The ISS has a higher than average concentration of carbon dioxide. On Earth, the concentration of CO2 is about 0.3 millimeters Gauge, but it can reach up to 6 millimeters He at the ISS. Unfavorable side effects like headaches, irritation, and sleeping difficulties, which have become a norm among astronauts, are a few of the consequences of this higher than normal concentration of carbon dioxide. Most astronauts complain of headaches early into their missions. Unlike on Earth, where carbon dioxide leaving the body disperses into the air, CO2 exhaled by astronauts forms a cloud above their heads. The ISS has special fans on board to blow these clouds away from the heads of the astronauts and disperse them around the facility. As we reach the culmination of this mind-blowing journey through the sickening facts about space travel, one thing becomes abundantly clear: the vastness of the cosmos holds both untold wonders and unimaginable horrors. From the bone-shattering acceleration to the eerie silence of the void, from the haunting beauty of cosmic radiation to the unsettling effects on the human body, space travel is a symphony of paradoxes that both fascinates and terrifies us. Yet, in the face of these sickening truths, our indomitable spirit as explorers endure. If you found our video informative, kindly subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on our videos.